Good morning. Hey, they are awake. How about that? Well, luckily we escaped the Pirates of the Caribbean, and we can continue on our virtual voyage. Oh, wow. That was a close call. But I hear that old Graybeard, the pirate, is going to leave some beautiful muffins for the bake sale this Wednesday to benefit the Fisher House Foundation. Yay, Graybeard. Susie and I again welcome you on board our ship, the motor vessel PVE. As you know, we have embarked on a virtual journey around the world, and it's going to continue to be a very busy cruise. So without further ado, let's cast off all lines and again set sail. Whoa, but first, today we're going to introduce a new feature into our presentations. We call it the PVE stretch. It's kind of like the seventh inning stretch, so you don't get too stiff just sitting around for so long. You won't know ahead of time when it's coming or what form it will take, so stay tuned. Today we're going to go to Brazil. That's where we're going to take a look at the Amazon River and its basin. We'll learn about the basin. Of course, it's huge, both in size and its importance to our life on Earth. It's often referred to as the lungs of the planet. And as an added shore excursion, we'll even get a chance to go to Carnival. Carnival. The Amazon River Basin is larger than any other watershed in the world. It covers such a large area that it impacts global oxygen levels. It encompasses an area of nearly 3 million square miles. Put it in a context, it's almost the size of the lower 48 states in the United States. The basin covers parts of Peru, Ecuador, Colombia, Bolivia, Venezuela, and of course Brazil. Think about it. That's over 40% of South America. The basin formed about 65 million years ago when the South American and African tectonic plates rifted or tore apart. South American plate moved off to the west and was lifted up on the east side to form what was called the Eastern Highlands. A river flowed across the continent from east to west. Erosion wore those highlands down, and about 30 million years ago, a ridge was pushed up in the middle of the continent that was called the Purus Arch. That arch caused the river to divide. Part of it headed toward the Pacific, and the other part flowed to the Atlantic. As tectonic forces caused the Andes Mountains to rise up on the west, the river turned back toward the Purus Arch. An enormous lake was formed until the water level topped the arch. It washed away the arch, and the Amazon River and basin were formed. That was about 2.4 million years ago. The most distant source of Amazon's water is a glacial spring in the Peruvian Alps, or Andes, excuse me. It's very high on a snow-capped glacial peak called Nevado Mismi. This source is over 4,200 miles away from the mouth of the Amazon at the Atlantic Ocean. The river covers over 42,000 square miles during the dry season. During the wet season, the flooded area is 3 times that. Almost 1.3 or 103,000 square miles. This is a photo of the Amazon River taken by the NASA Earth Observatory satellite. The Amazon River has a flow greater than that of the next 10 largest rivers on Earth combined. It accounts for 1/5 of the world's total river flow. The area sees an average annual rainfall of almost 80 inches. The average depth of the river during the rainy season is 130 feet. The intersection of the Rio Negro and the Rio Solimnos rivers results in 2 distinct colors of water running in parallel for several miles. The confluence near the city of Manaus between the dark or Blackwater River and the pale sandy-colored Whitewater River runs side by side without mixing for nearly 4 miles. The volume of the rivers is so great that the waters only mix as they finally reach the main channel of the Amazon. The phenomena is due to differences in temperature, speed, and water density from the two rivers. The Rio Negro flows at over a mile an hour with a temperature of about 82 degrees Fahrenheit. The Rio Solimnos flows about twice as fast, 2 miles an hour, and has a temperature that's 10 degrees cooler. Beside temperature and speed, there is also a significant reduction in the ocean salinity as far as 300 miles out to sea, as you can see from this satellite view. There is so much fresh water flowing from the Amazon into the Atlantic Ocean that it's possible to throw a bucket over the side of a ship and get fresh water as far as 12 miles offshore. How wide the mouth of the Amazon is a matter of dispute because of its peculiar geography. If the Para River, which is really a part of the whole Amazon thing, is included, the Amazon estuary is 150 miles wide. The river and its climate caused plants and animals to evolve. Today, the Amazon basin is home to over half of the planet's remaining rainforest. Its basin is home to 50 million different species of plants. Researchers have counted 300 species of trees alone in a single 2.5-acre area. There are 4 distinct layers of tropical rainforest, and the Amazon is a prime example. These layers have been identified as the emergent canopy, understory, and forest floor. Emergent trees are 100 to 240 feet tall with umbrella-shaped canopies that grow above the forest floor. To support their size, they grow buttresses that can spread out to a distance of 30 feet or more, but their root system is very shallow. These trees have smooth, thin bark because it's not necessary to protect them from water loss or from freezing temperatures, and it makes it difficult for plant parasites to grow on their trunks. Different species are so similar that it's difficult to identify a tree by its bark. This can often only be done by going up into trees and looking at their flowers. The kapok, or silk cotton tree, is an example of an emergent layer tree in Brazil. The kapok species has adopted to take advantage of the wind for seed dispersal. It releases its seeds attached to little cotton-like material. The seeds then drift for miles into wind currents before dropping to earth. Many of the emergent trees have very straight trunks that don't branch out for maybe 100 feet or more. There's no need for branches below the canopy where there is very little light. Because emergent trees are exposed to drying winds, they tend to have very small pointed leaves. In some monsoon rainforests, some species will actually lose their leaves during the dry season, but that does not occur in the Amazon. The canopy layer consists of 60 to 130 foot tall trees. The canopy has some light available at the top layer, but it greatly reduces the light coming through to the vegetation below it. The leaves here have little drip spouts on them at the end, and that allows them to run off the water. That keeps them dry and prevents mold and mildew from forming in the humid environment. One example of a canopy tree is the Brazil nut tree. It is shaded from the harsh sun by the upper canopy ceiling. Its nuts form inside a large round ball-shaped capsule. It's kind of similar to that of a coconut. Interestingly, the Brazil nut is the same botanic family as other pretty well-known plants, such as blueberries, cranberries, tea, and persimmon. Who knew? Most of the Amazon rainforest animals live in a canopy. There's so much food available at this level that some animals never go down to the forest floor. Countless species, usually thought of as ground dwellers, have adapted to life in the canopy. And those include things like worms, crabs, frogs, even anteaters, porcupines, and many more. The understory layer has vegetation that's less than 60 feet tall. This layer is made up of the trunks of the canopy trees, of course, shrubs, plants, and other small trees. At this lower level, shrubs and saplings receive less than 3% of the available sunlight. Pretty dark in there. Plants are in constant shade and there is very little air movement. As a result, the humidity is constantly high. Here, the trees actually give off water through pores in their leaves. It's a process called transpiration, and that accounts for maybe as much as half of the total moisture in the rainforest. Now I'd like to talk about the national tree of Brazil. This understory tree gives the country its name. The pau-Brazil, or Brazil wood tree, played a significant role in the nation's social and economic history. The tree provides an important habitat for orchids and other plants that grow harmlessly on this and other plants or trees. The Brazil wood trees provide an immensely valuable and almost indestructible wood. It's used to manufacture bows for stringed instruments such as violins, for furniture, construction, and to make traditional hunting tools by the natives. A dye taken from the tree's heartwood has been exploited by brasileiros, or collectors, since 1501. That extensive collection and export of the dye wood resulted in the loss of large areas of forest and the enslavement of local people. By the time alternative synthetic dyes became available in 1875, dramatic population declines in the tree had already taken place. This decline continued until the 1920s. Natural stands were almost completely destroyed, but some populations remained in a few areas along the coastal plain. Today, the bark and dye extract from the Brazil wood tree are used locally for medicinal purposes by the native people. Research is also being conducted to determine if the bark can be used to treat cancer. More than 1,400 varieties of tropical plants are thought to be potential cures for disease. The cinchona tree bark is a source for quinine. Curare comes from a vine, and it was used by native people as a poison for hunting and warfare. Today, it's used as an anesthetic and to relax muscles during surgery. The understory layer hosts tree frogs and salamanders. They require a lot of humidity to keep their skin from drying out. There's also large concentrations of insects here. Just to give you an idea, there are about 150 species of butterflies that live in the understory layer. Very little sunshine reaches this area, so the plants here have larger leaves to collect whatever light is available. It's very dark down here on the forest floor. We think about that loss of light all the way down. Less than 1% of the light that strikes the top of the forest penetrates down to the forest floor. The topsoil is very thin and of poor quality. As a result, almost no plants grow down here. Hardly any sun reaches the forest floor, so things begin to decay quickly. Decomposers like ants, termites, earthworms, fungi, and heat and humidity further will break down whatever litter falls here. A leaf that might take a year to decompose in a regular climate, kind of like we have here, will disappear in about 6 weeks. The organic material is then just as quickly absorbed by the tree's shallow roots. In turn, that begins the whole food chain or cycle of life for both the plants and the animals to survive. One interesting forest floor plant that relies on animals for reproduction is the strangler fig. Their seeds are dropped in birds' waste that settle into crevices high up in the trees. The plant then grows both upward toward the sun, trying to get there, and down to the forest floor. Eventually, it will kill the tree host that it surrounds. Moss, ferns, mushrooms, and fungi also thrive in the warm, moist conditions on the forest floor. They're able to grow by living inside or next to decaying trees and plants. A person with lymphocytic leukemia may have a 99% chance that the disease will go into remission because of the rosy periwinkle. It is famous for its anti-cancer properties and the ability to treat many common allergies. This species often produces flowers of 2 different colors on the same plant. There are some 120 prescription drugs that are sold worldwide today, and more than 2/3 of all cancer-fighting medicines come from Amazon rainforest plants. They've given us treatments for things like headaches, fever, high blood pressure, muscle pain, and more. The native people of Brazil have been stewards of the jungle for millennia. They live almost entirely from the abundance of plants and animals that the rainforest produces. There is a vast array of fruits that are available naturally, and in the Amazon rainforest, they're all over the place. Only now are many of them becoming known to people outside of Brazil. Now, wouldn't it be great to walk into the Sunday brunch and see a buffet display like that? Yeah. One fruit that's native to the Amazon is the abayu. It's a tropical fruit tree that grows about 33 feet high. The trees may reach as much as 116 feet under very good conditions where the upper trees have either fallen or been broken down. The fruit shape varies from pretty much round to oval with a little point on the end. When it's ripe, it has a smooth, bright yellow skin, kind of like a lemon, but very smooth. The fruit is translucent and white and has a creamy, kind of jelly-like texture. The taste is sweet, like caramel. Makes me hungry already, not even lunchtime. Now let's look at some of the fauna that exists in Brazil. The Amazon basin contains about 30 million species of insects. Scientists have described over 100,000 invertebrate species in Brazil alone. They include things like colored butterflies, mosquitoes, and camouflage stick insects. A single bush in the Amazon may have more different species of ants than exist in the entire country of England. Army ants call the rainforest floor home. Their food supply is plentiful, and they will move in colonies to attack and eat anything they come in contact with, even humans. The scorpion is another forest floor critter that feeds on spiders, but even it has to watch out for snakes. Of course, the snake picture I had to take out because a certain roommate of mine doesn't like snakes. Of course, where there are ants and termites, there are giant anteaters. Over 1/3 of all animal species in the world live in the Amazon basin. There are approximately 800 different species of mammals alone. They range in size from the tiny pygmy marmoset to tapirs and jaguars. Common characteristics found among mammals, birds, and reptiles living in the Amazon basin include adaptations to a life in the trees. Characteristics include very bright colors, sharp coat patterns, loud vocalizations, and a diet very heavy on fruit. The pygmy marmoset is the small species of New World monkey that's native to rainforest in the western Amazon. This species is notable for being the smallest monkey and one of the smallest primates in the world. Adults of this little critter weigh 3½ ounces. My cup of coffee weighs twice that. Brazil is home to almost 100 species of monkey, but unfortunately many of them are in danger of extinction. On the other side, fortunately in the last decade, 13 new species of monkey have been found. One example of adaptation to living in the Amazon is the prehensile tail of the monkeys that live here, called New World monkeys. Cute when they're little. He is kind of a cute little guy. The adult tapir is about 6 feet long and can weigh about 500 pounds, most likely from spending too much time at the buffet. Tapirs have a very sharp sense of smell and hearing, and that's useful for evading predators. They live for about 30 years. Brazilian tapirs spend most of their time near water, and they are excellent swimmers. They have 3 or 4 toes on each foot, depending on the individual. and those spread out to help them walk on the muddy ground. Tapirs have a voice that sounds kind of like a human whistle. A tapir is often captured by the natives, who then raise them for food, and sometimes they display them when you go up the Amazon and visit some of the villages, and they try to convince you that it's a pet. But they're just fattening it. No, we won't go there. The jaguar, not the car, is the largest cat in the Western Hemisphere. The Amazon is home to the largest population of this species. Now, jaguars love water, so it's no surprise that in the rainforest here, he loves it. It's his favorite place. The native tribes refer to this cat as the eater of souls. Jaguar's diet includes lizards, snakes, fish, and all of those are killed with a single swipe of his paw. For larger animals, such as crocodiles, deer, tapirs, tree-dwelling sloths, and monkeys, the cat uses a stalk and ambush technique. It kills by piercing the skull with its canine teeth. You can see they're pretty nasty-looking teeth. The jaguar's strength then allows him to haul his dead prey well up into a tree where he can eat in peace. Kind of like takeout from the cafe going home to your own place. The Amazon River has over 3,000 known species of fish, and the number is still growing. Every year they discover a new species. Present in large number is the notorious piranha. It's a carnivorous fish that congregates in huge schools. Now, it may attack livestock, but only the red-belly piranha is known to attack humans. Pink dolphins really do exist in the Amazon River and its tributaries. These are pretty marvelous animals, and scientists believe they have a brain capacity that's about 40% larger than ours. They can grow to about 8 feet long and weigh about 400 pounds. And yes, they are pink, but they're not that necessarily easy to see. The last time we were in Manaus, Susie looked and looked and looked and never saw a pink dolphin, and I took pictures of them. Their body color can vary from a very vivid pink to a blue-gray and even an off-white. Now, the local fishermen still believe that the pink dolphin have supernatural powers, and it's kind of the worst bad luck to harm one of them. Now, one of the most interesting myths or legends is that the pink dolphin can change into a handsome, charming man to seduce the local maidens. If a pretty young single woman turns out pregnant when she should not be, a pink dolphin frequently gets the blame. I didn't do it. There are over 300 reptile species in the Amazon Basin. The spectacled caiman is a crocodilian reptile found in much of South America. Its name comes from that bony ridge that's between the eyes, and that gives it the appearance like it's wearing a pair of spectacles. The largest reptile in the Amazon Basin is the anaconda. It's a non-venomous constricting snake that can grow to about 20 feet or more in length. And again, Susie deleted that picture. The Amazon is home to 1/3 of the world's bird species. The macaw is the largest bird in tropical regions and up to 50 inches long. Their diet includes tropical fruits, nuts, insects, and even snails. Escargot. They're also known to eat red clay on riverbanks, and scientists are pretty unsure why they do this. Some believe it's for minerals or even to detoxify poisons from some of the plants that they eat. In the wild, the macaw have very loud, ear-piercing screeches, and they're believed to be able to communicate very well with each other, and they mate for life. Maybe their communication skills are better than ours. Caverna da Pedra Pintada is an archaeological site in northern Brazil. Humans first settled in the Amazon Basin region over 11,000 years ago. The early people visited Caverna da Pedra Pintada, or Cave of the Painted Rocks, regularly for about 1,200 years. Here, archaeologists found stone spear points, tools, and charred plant and animal remains, and that showed that the natives used the cave as a place to cook, eat, and to work. The natives existed by foraging from the rainforest and the river, gathering fruit and seeds, such as Brazil nuts that we talked about, and palm seeds from common tropical plants and trees. And they also hunted and fished and went after birds and reptiles, amphibians, and shellfish. The cave paintings here include stick figures, animals, and handprints. The images include a woman giving birth and geometric designs that are painted in browns, reds, and yellows. These are considered to be the earliest known cave paintings in the Americas. Now, biologists believe a population density of 1 person per square mile is the maximum that can be sustained in the rainforest living a hunter-gatherer lifestyle. The early dates of human presence in this cave has challenged previous thoughts about human settlement in South America. Everybody believed that it was much later on in history, but this one shows it was very early. When the Portuguese first arrived in Brazil in 1500, they found a coastline rich in natural resources. Pedro Alvarez Cabral, commander of the Discovery Fleet, wrote a letter to the King of Portugal, and he used glowing terms to describe the beauty of the land. The indigenous people were said to be living in paradise. Hey, wait a minute, that's where we live. The Europeans saw the natives as noble savages. Tribal warfare and cannibalism convinced the Portuguese that they should civilize these Indians. However, the Portuguese, like the Spanish, brought diseases with them. Measles, smallpox, tuberculosis, and influenza killed tens of thousands of the people because they had no immunity. As diseases spread along native trade routes, whole tribes were annihilated. The native population declined from a pre-Columbian high estimated in the millions, maybe as much as 5 million, to less than 300,000 in 1997. Most of the 2,000 nations and tribes that were here in the 16th century died out. Today, there are less than 200 tribes living in Brazil. Brazil recently passed New Guinea as the country having the largest number of uncontacted people. Uncontacted people are described as those tribes still living remotely. In 2007, there were 67 different uncontacted tribes in Brazil. These people follow ancient hunting and gathering practices. They all speak indigenous languages, and they have had no face-to-face contact with the modern world. Here you can see the village shaman in a northern Brazilian state of Acre. It's a woman with her body painted black. She's holding a small infant and has a small child standing in front of her. This tribe, called the Muruanahua, lived in a tribal reserve near the Peruvian border with Brazil. They were first contacted by illegal loggers sometime around 1995. As a result, half of them died from colds, flu, and other respiratory infections to which they had no immunity. Survivors of this tribe now live spread out in villages of other indigenous groups far away from their ancestral hunting. Most tribes do not have clearly defined boundaries, and that makes it easier for commercial logging and farming ventures to target their land. As the forests are destroyed, these communities continue to disappear. In 2015, National Geographic magazine reported that members of a previously isolated tribe had recently approached Brazilian government officials. For months, these Indians appeared regularly on the riverbanks and even entered into local settlements to seize or steal food and other goods. A team of experts was dispatched to a remote Amazonian region to make controlled contact with a group of 24 indigenous Mashco-Pico natives. The government's goal is to devise a way to mediate the embrace of the outside world. They don't want to just go in there and give these people cell phones and televisions. They want to try to keep them much as they have been all along. This region is home to a very large percentage of all plant and animal species known on Earth. But as I have indicated, along with modern man came destruction. Between 2007 and 2008, the Brazilian Amazon lost almost 3 million acres of rainforest to illegal logging and cattle ranching. This slide shows the loss of rainforest in a small portion of the Amazon basin. The small square in the lower left shows 24,700 acres. That's what it looks like compared to the rest of it. All of that pink area is lost. Santarém, Brazil is about halfway between Manaus and to the mouth of the Amazon at the Atlantic Ocean. Today, right now, 150 acres of rainforest are lost every minute of every day, around the clock, around the world. That's 78 million acres lost every year. More than 20% of the Amazon rainforest is already gone, and much more is severely threatened with destruction as it continues. It's estimated that the Amazon alone is vanishing at a rate of 20,000 square miles per year. Main cause of deforestation in the Amazon are human settlement and industrial development. Between 60 and 80% of all logging in the Brazilian Amazon is believed to be illegal. Of the timber that is cut, as much as 70% is wasted at the mills or abandoned where it was cut. Farms are cleared using a slash and burn method. That causes a very rapid loss in soil fertility. As a result, farmers are constantly moving and clearing more land. Vast areas cleared of forest are visible with the naked eye from outer space. Brazil is now the world's largest beef exporter. Clearing rainforest for this multi-billion-dollar industry is now responsible for 80% of the forest lost in Brazil. The Amazon rainforest is the lung of the planet. It is a carbon sink, or a natural place that absorbs carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. The rainforest stores it and prevents the carbon from adding to the greenhouse effect. Deforestation, on the other hand, releases that carbon into the air. The Amazon rainforest produces more than 20% of the world's total oxygen. At the current rate, in 2 decades, the Amazon rainforest will be reduced by another 40%. This will result in a significant reduction to the amount of oxygen that's produced worldwide. Economist C.M. Peters of the New York Botanical Garden wrote that a tropical rainforest contains an incredible diversity of plant species. Very little is known about the regeneration, growth, and productivity of these plants, their market value, or their potential for sustainable exploitation and management. His research attempts to provide this information by focusing on the ecology and economics of tropical forest resources. Peters stated in his papers that there is an economic and biologic incentive for protecting the rainforest. 1 acre of the Amazon is calculated in its natural form to have $3,400 of value if it's intact. And that's for use for things harvesting fruits and latex and timber. The value drops to just $500 per acre if it's clear-cut for timber, and less than $70 an acre if it's used for cattle pasture. Deforestation accounts for about 20% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Losing the Amazon means more carbon emissions and a warmer world. Now, no matter how far from the region we live, the Amazon Basin plays an important role in all of our lives every day by regulating the world's climate. As it stands today, without a massive recovery, the Amazon will slowly destroy itself. Ultimately, even if we did nothing, it will become a savanna in a few million years. While we're in Brazil, let's visit the magic city of Rio de Janeiro. Rio is the 3rd largest metropolitan area in South America and the 6th largest in the Americas. It occupies an area of about 475 square miles. The residents here are called the Cariocas, and the official song of Rio is "Marvelous City." And no, I'm not going to try to sing it. Every visit should begin with a trip up Sugarloaf Mountain. It's a huge granite slab at the entrance of Guanabara Bay, and it rises some 1,300 feet above the harbor. The name refers to its resemblance to the shape of the old traditional loaves of concentrated refined sugar that came from the sugar plantations in the area. The trip to the top is via a two-part cable car ride. Travels an overall distance of about 4,265 feet. Now, this cable was originally installed in 1912. Don't worry, they have since upgraded and changed the cables. It takes about 3 minutes to reach the first stop that's about 700 feet up, and that's at a place called Urca Hill. And then you get into another gondola and take the final climb up to the summit, where you have a just spectacular, breathtaking view of the city and the harbor. Rio's most famous and well-known monument is Christ the Redeemer statue that stands 2,400 feet above the sea atop Corcovado Mountain. You can reach the top of the mountain on a cogwheel train, or you can drive up that really steep, windy road. The statue is more than 100 feet tall and has been named one of the new 7 wonders of the world. The outstretched arms seem to embrace the stunning panorama of the city of Rio below. Ipanema Beach is about a mile long. The water is often rough, and its name comes from the indigenous word for the area called troubled waters. Even so, this beach is among the most famous in the world, but if you ever go there, you need to really use a little bit of caution and use care in the water because of riptides and really strong currents. Nearby, Copacabana is known for its 3 miles of white sand and the Avenida Atlantica. Here you can stroll along that mosaic wave pattern sidewalk, and along that walk are some of the most significant buildings in the city. And that includes, just for example, the legendary Copacabana Palace Hotel and the Copacabana Fort. The Municipal Theater's exterior is very similar to the Paris Opera House. It's located in central Rio. This building was begun back in 1905 on a foundation of wooden piles. Outside, the walls are inscribed with the names of some significant people in both Brazilian and international theater. Among those representative are Verdi, Arturo Toscanini, Sarah Bernhardt, and Igor Stravinsky. Football, better known to many of us as soccer, is the national passion in Brazil. Maracana Stadium is one of the biggest and most legendary sports venues in the world. It's so large you can see it from up at Corcovado, and it has witnessed performances of world football stars like Pele and Zico and Rivaldo. Built in 1950, the stadium holds the world's sports attendance record at over 190,000 people. It was the site of the largest stadium-based concert attendance. That was with Paul McCartney with 210,000 fans. And then, of course, there's Carnival. So for those that can, please stand and samba to the music. Everyone, just try to move. Move, move, move. You don't have to stand, just move, move, move. You don't have to stand, just move, move, move. All right, there. Didn't that get everyone into the spirit of Carnival? These rituals date back to ancient Roman and Greek rites of spring. Throughout history, people have celebrated wearing masks and dancing in the streets. But the grandest, most uninhibited, and sensual of all the celebrations is in Rio de Janeiro. It is known as Carnival, and it is held every year just before Lent. The party lasts for 4 days and is the last chance for people to let it all hang out. The first Carnival festival in Rio occurred in 1723. Today, it is considered the largest carnival in the world, with 2 million people per day in the streets. The typical Rio Carnival parade is filled with revelers, floats, and adornments from numerous samba schools. A samba school is composed of a collaboration of local neighborhood people who want to attend Carnival together. there's always some kind of a regional, geographical, or other common background. There are more than 200 schools divided into 5 leagues or divisions. Samba schools from all across Rio prepare for up to a year to compete and then participate in the Carnival parade. The Samba Drome is the spectator viewing area that borders the road where the parade takes place. It can hold 90,000 spectators. The parade route consists of about a half a mile stretch through these viewing areas, and that's a pavement area that has bleachers on both sides. Now, did you know, here's a little fact for you, that because of the high heat and humidity in the area, the festivals don't start, the parades don't start until 8 o'clock at night, and then they continue until sunrise. And I'm sure, in my heart, I'm sure that it's because of the heat that the young ladies are so scantily clad. The samba is a traditional Brazilian dance that originated from African roots. It has a 2/4 tempo performed by various percussion instruments such as the tambourine. Let's listen to that just for a moment. You guys are just looking at the drum, right? Considered one of the world's most popular cultural expressions, the samba is an icon of the Brazilian national identity. This dance became a UNESCO Heritage of Humanity item in 2005. Brazilian actress Carmen Miranda popularized samba internationally back in the 20th century. Today, the Museum of Carmen Miranda displays some of her gowns and headpieces, and she's buried in the Flamenco Park area of Rio de Janeiro. And with that, our brief visit to Brazil must come to an end. And we're going to continue on our voyage. Next time, the MV-PVE will stop in the countries of South Africa and Namibia. From the Dutch to the Zulus, the Boers to apartheid, Mandela and Robben Island, you'll hear about strife in South Africa. We'll visit Cape Town, and then we'll take a side trip to Namibia to discover their flora, fauna, people, and of course to find the diamonds that you can just pick up from the sand. And luckily, our presentation slot will be back to our usual first and third Tuesday of the month at 2 p.m. Don't forget the Fisher House Foundation Bake Sale right here at the Community Center on Wednesday the 8th. That's the day after tomorrow. Graybeard's beautiful muffins and more. Pack a powerful punch. Thanks for coming today. Does anybody have any questions about the lecture? Yes, sir. Oh, he wants to know, if you go up the Amazon, how do you protect yourself from malaria, yellow fever, and all that kind of stuff? Let's see, don't go, no. Sunscreen, mosquito repellent, long sleeve, long pants. Don't walk in the jungle areas at twilight or at sunrise, and have a good time. Depending on the time of year and everything else, you may want to get yellow fever inoculations. You could also take the malaria prophylaxis stuff to help protect you from that. If you're going on a cruise ship, basically the only time you're really at risk is when you go ashore. But I would still use mosquito repellent and stuff like that in the twilight areas. Anybody else? Yes, sir. He wants to know how they built that statue way up in the air. Aliens. Actually, it was built like statues anyplace else. They just built a foundation and then just worked their way up using scaffolding and just kept building and building and building. The inside of the statue is kind of like the Statue of Liberty. It's got a huge steel framework on the inside. Statue of Liberty, of course, is clad in copper, where this one is clad in concrete. So it's just a different technique. But it wasn't the easiest construction, I'm sure. Anybody else? Yes, ma'am. Do they eat the crabs that are in the rainforest? Actually, the indigenous people, I think they eat anything that they find. You won't find those particular crabs on the menu in the restaurants in Brazil, but the indigenous people, they eat just about everything. And of course, they're a little different than us because they have a kind of acquired immunity over time so that the stuff doesn't bother them if they ate it. But I bet if one of us were to go pick something out of the jungle that we didn't have before, we might have a little bit of Montezuma visit. He asked, based on the ecological importance, is the government able to do much? One of the problems that exist in Brazil is there is such a huge, vast area, and the country is not the most stable, richest country in the world. So there's a lot of people, companies, and so on that come in from Peru and from other bordering countries along the edges of Brazil and come in and basically take out what they want from the rainforest. And recently, the government of Brazil has taken away some of the protections that were there for the native people. And that's caused a lot of strife within the country itself. But the government tries. They have areas that they, quote, have declared as sanctuaries, but they don't have the ability to easily enforce some of those requirements. Last chance. All right, thank you. Have a great lunch.